everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and review two movies from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Black Panther from 2018 and Black Panther Wakanda Forever from 2022. Both films were directed by Ryan Coogler and co-written by Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole. Black Panther was the 18th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it starred Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, Martin Freeman, Daniel Kaluuya, Letitia Wright, Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, and Andy Serkis. The sequel, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, is the 30th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it stars Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, Winston Duke, Florence Kasumba, Dominique Thorne, Michaela Cole, Tenoch Huerta, Martin Freeman, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Angela Bassett. Black Panther, the original movie, had a budget of $200 million and grossed $1.382 billion. Okay?
Let me hold some.
Right.
Let me hold some. What?
Right.
Come on.
Black Panther was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, winning 3, and it received numerous other accolades. It was actually the first superhero film to receive a Best Picture nomination, and the first MCU film to win several categories, including Best Costume Design, Best Production Design, and Best Original Score. Black Panther Wakanda Forever just came out 2 weeks ago and has already taken in $288 million. For some, these budget numbers alone would be enough to consider these movies a classic. But today, we will determine whether they are classics from the right perspective. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll do a recap, discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But let's start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hi, I'm Brittany Wright, and I am the youngest, and I am part of the Jabari tribe.
Okay. And for those that are for our audience members, Brittany's referring to the fact that at least 2 of us are in costume. Okay. Brittany has on a fur and looks as if she has just come down from the mountains with M'Baku. Okay. All right. I have adorned in wonderful African metals, jewelry.
You're giving very much mother vibes here.
Thank you.
Very
Clearly,
much
this necklace is
vibes.
Made of vibranium. Obviously, it is. Look at these earrings. They're made of vibranium. That's clear to anyone who's looking at me.
And I have on a vibranium t-shirt.
He does. He is one of the transporters.
If you try to shoot me, you will see.
You know, it may just look like a black t-shirt, but it's actually made of vibranium. All right. Well, we'll take it. Yeah, very good.
Does. I like it.
Well, did y'all dress up when y'all went to see the movie? Because, you know, people were like, the plan in the Black community was to wear all white for the movie. Did y'all do that?
Yes. I didn't do all whites. I just did a white top. And I had actually purchased a white sweater dress to wear because I saw the movie 3 times. And so I was ready. But I never wore the white dress to the second time. But I did wear the white top the first time. But I was hoping to see some people at either because I went to 2 separate theaters and I didn't really see anybody dressed up or anything like that. I don't know if we get down like that here, but I was waiting to see it online. So
yeah, the theater I went to, there were some people dressed up, but they more had on like, wonderful like patterns and jewelry and head wraps. They were dressed in like Afrocentric clothing. Yeah. I didn't see a bunch of people in all white, and I personally got dressed within 2 to 5 minutes because I was running late. Mm. And so I had intended to wear a white shirt and actually this necklace that I have on right now. And that shirt needed to be ironed and didn't nobody have time to iron. And so I just literally gave up, and just ran out the house and whatever I had on. What about you, bro?
I went at like the showing I went to was at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And so there wasn't anybody.
Nobody had
really,
on African pajamas.
You know, Frank, I was in the front row, smack dab center. I was basically in the movie. Okay. I saw it was the only seat left.
I saw you in the credits. In the after credit scene.
Right. Getting all wet during the water wars. I was like, so, but yeah, you know, it was one of those movies though, where you just felt like you were together with the rest of the audience and watching it, which was really nice. It was a nice community feel in the air. Even though we weren't all dressed up together, you know?
It's true.
Well, you know, we have a tradition of when we kind of consider a whole franchise on the Wright Perspective, we typically, you know, rate them together as a franchise. And I'm assuming we're going to do that this time, y'all. Is that right? Yeah. We didn't really talk about it, but
every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Can't get away from it.
Right. So at the end of this podcast, we will determine whether these two movies together, this franchise is a classic from the Wright Perspective. We need a voting symbol to use for that vote. And I have one to recommend.
All right.
And just get ready to say, hey, girlfriend, you got this one. Okay. Because it's so exactly what you're thinking already. That is the heart-shaped herb. Go ahead and nod in agreement. I feel that's in your spirit. Sure. And it's not just because
we might like it, but your reasoning almost always is out of both of our spirits.
Not this time. Not this time. So, why the heart-shaped herb? Not just because it is the source of the Black Panther superhuman power.
Okay? That necklace.
But it is because of what it symbolizes more generally. Okay. Over the course of these two movies, we saw three people ingest the herb. One wanted to use that power to empower people, right? And to unify people. One wanted to use it to seek revenge on oppressors around the world and make things right. Okay. And one, the third, was torn between those two approaches because at the end of the day, there's nobility and merit and heart in both.
Could you emphasize that word one more time?
Heart. In both.
And for those in our podcast land that can't hear her fists are balled up and she means it.
Yes, I do. And so I rest my case. I recommend the heart-shaped herb.
I'm so
They were calling it a head in the movie. A head. It's a heart-shaped head.
Okay, you all. This is not the last time we're going to hear Brittany's accent in this podcast. That's a heads up for all y'all. It's coming. It's coming for you.
I am 100% on board with the herb.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well,
I would come up with
one right here.
I would. Oh, I do have something that's purple.
Your shirt is purple, isn't it? Underneath your fur, your M'Baku fur, your Jabari fur.
Listen, I'm going to take this off so people can get some of that purple. Okay, that's a royal color that's happening in there. Okay, people can get that.
Sis.
Thank you so much. Yes, I would give some of my, what you all love so much, my recommendations. I'm not going to because I like the heart-shaped herb.
Yay!
But if I did give some recommendations.
You're so close. You're so
And I had other ideas and I put that one forth because I really thought it would be a streamlined approach. I really did.
It's streamlined. I'll write my ideas in the comments.
Make a separate
Well, I will tell y'all what is not streamlined. And that is the recap. Okay, so listen, y'all, I'm not gonna lie. It was so hard. And for those who are new to our podcast, we always do a recap of the content. Normally, that is, and it's full spoilers, so spoiler alert. Normally that is because our content is like generally old and people haven't seen it in a while, or they don't intend to see it, but they want to enjoy the podcast. But
I've learned from some of my friends, they never heard of it before.
Right.
Like, what is that? I'm like, you don't know. You're missing out. You're missing out.
Let's get a recap. You'll get the gist. You'll get the gist. So we're very committed to these recaps. And when movies are complex, it is sometimes so hard to get the streamline recap because there's certain things you just have to share in order for people to follow the story. And so y'all, it was so hard to get to a streamlined recap that was high level enough to just move us through to get the sense of the movies. And so, as we have done on a few occasions in the past, I just decided to do a sneak attack on y'all and break the recap up into like, I scripted it out for all three of us. And so if you'll look in your chat, your sister has just sent you.
Oh, this is so good.
And I didn't even proofread it. So I'm sure there are going to be typos in your section. So just get ready to stumble through and make it work. And Brittany, I gave you a big opportunity to use your fancy accents. Okay?
I don't think the masses will be ready for that. They don't know what's coming for them.
So y'all,
I know I ain't ready.
Well, I have to say, y'all, these movies were just so chock full of content that it cannot be recapped by one person. It has to be a team effort. Do you all have your scripts up? Your surprise scripts? I just love it. Gotcha. All right.
Okay.
So,
I got it up. Yeah, I got it up.
You got yours up, sis?
I got it up.
Okay. All right. So
yep.
This is so good.
Yeah. And I will say, like, the other thing that I often do when I'm doing the recap is like, I won't put in certain things. I'll just put placeholders. And then sometimes live on air, I'm realizing I never swapped out the placeholder for the actual thing I meant to put in there. So I don't know what's in this recap. All right, so let's get started. Yes.
Listen, it's jazz. It's jazz.
It is. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start with the original Black Panther movie. Wakanda is an African country that has always been perceived as a third world country, but is actually the most technologically advanced country in the world. In addition to being rich in terms of indigenous natural resources, their land and people have also been enriched by vibranium, the precious metal that is considered the strongest in the universe. It also contains special properties, such as the ability to absorb, store, and release large amounts of kinetic energy. Before the dawning of humanity, a meteorite containing vibranium hit the land that Wakandans live on. So the people of this country have benefited from the metal for hundreds of thousands of years. This is why they are so technologically advanced. A huge factor in their recipe for success also has been to mind their own business. Okay?
Hello.
This is why they let the world think they are a third world country. They don't want to invite the kinds of illnesses and wars and European colonization that the rest of the world is dealing with and will always deal with. Another factor in their success has been the Black Panther. Thousands of years ago, a warrior living in Wakanda ingested a special heart-shaped herb that was revealed to him by the goddess Bast. The herb gave him superhuman abilities. He used those abilities to unite 4 of the 5 tribes of Wakanda, laying the foundation for the thriving country that exists today. The 5th tribe, the Jabari, lived peacefully and resentfully in the mountains of Wakanda. In present day, which for the first movie is 2018, the king of Wakanda, Chaka, played by John Kanai, has just been killed by a terrorist at a UN conference. He wasn't being targeted. It was a general terrorist attack at the United Nations. His son, T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, becomes king and ingests the heart-shaped herb to become the Black Panther. There are several other rituals that must be completed, as well as including a coronation ceremony. There are several other rituals that must be completed, including a coronation ceremony where anyone from Wakanda can challenge T'Challa for the throne. And T'Challa must fight without the benefit of the heart-shaped herb.
Two challengers come forward. The first is M'Baku, played by Winston Duke. Hello. The leader of the Jabari. The leader of the Jabari, the tribe that lives in the mountains. It was a fierce battle, but T'Challa wins, even persuading M'Baku to yield rather than die. M'Baku yields and goes back to the mountains. The second challenger actually arrives a few days later and is a much more controversial because he is a stranger to Wakanda. His name is Eric Stevens, played by Michael B. Jordan, honey. And
Yes.
he appears to be American. In fact, the only reason they don't kill him on the spot is when he arrives at the Wakanda border, is because he brings with him a corpse of Ulysses Kalu. I think that's how you say that. Thank you, Claw. Thank you. A black market arms dealer that had actually stolen some vibranium from Wakanda back in the 90s. The only reason that Claw was successful, by the way, is because he had a ton of inside information. He was actually aided by Njubu, who was played by Sterling K. Brown. Hello.
I'm trying so hard not to say yum yum as you say each one of these names. I just want to say it. I just said it. Yum yum to all of them. Listen,
okay? The brother of the late
so inappropriate.
T'Chaka. And Jubu had been working undercover as a spy in Oakland, California for many years. And after seeing and experiencing the plight of Black people around the globe outside of Wakanda, he began to resent Wakanda for leaving the rest of the diaspora to suffer while Wakanda thrived in secret. And Jobu teamed up with Claw to steal vibranium from Wakanda so that he could help people. By the time King T'Chaka figured it out, Claw already had the vibranium and was lost in the wind. When King T'Chaka went to Chicago to confront Njubu tried to explain as he pleaded for his brother to understand and to join his fight.
That's your chances. I put it in italics.
Oh gosh. You are not going to have me get it messed up.
Okay, never mind. Never mind.
I observed.
No, don't do it. Never mind.
What is going on?
I observed for as long as I could. Their leaders have been assassinated. Communities flooded with drugs and weapons. They are overly policed and incarcerated. All over the planet, our people suffer because they don't have the tools to fight back. With vibranium weapons, they can overthrow all countries and Wakanda can rule them all the right way. In the end, King T'Chaka was not persuaded, and he killed his brother Njobu for the betrayal and left his body on the floor of his Oakland, California apartment to be discovered.
Chicago. Wasn't it in Chicago?
No, he was in Oakland, California.
Oakland, California. Okay, got it. Sorry.
Because you put Oakland, Chicago, and I was like, that's not a place. I was just going to skip over it. I really
thought it was Chicago.
I was going to skip over it because you had just said...
okay.
Yeah.
Placeholder for major city. Placeholder for major city. Because I do think it's somewhere in Chicago. I'll look that up.
No, even earlier you said it was Oakland, California. When I accidentally read it earlier again, when you said when King T'Chaka went to Oakland to confront Njobu, and Jobu tried to explain. So if anybody heard me say Chicago, my bad. I was just reading the script. But then I saw it a second time. That's not right.
It's Oakland, California.
In Oakland, California,
You're
apartment.
Right,
he discovered his young son, Eric Stevens, who discovered by his young son, Eric Stevens. Fast forward to present day, only one of the king's trusted advisors, Zori, Forrest Whitaker, knew of any of this. So when Eric showed up to challenge T'Challa, bearing the markings of a true Wakandan, everyone was in complete shock. Hey, Auntie. I had to add that in because that is a very known situation. It turns out Eric has spent his entire life working toward the moment of confrontation. Listen, he sure did, y'all. Mm-hmm. He has been working as a high-level Navy SEAL, spy, and assassin for the U.S. government, going by the name of Killmonger. Killmonger challenges T'Challa to ritual combat for the throne, and because it is his birthright. T'Challa accepts. Unfortunately, Killmonger is so skilled and so angry and bitter, he ends up defeating T'Challa. And the Wakandan elders and dignitaries watch as Killmonger throws T'Challa's body from a cliff. This means Killmonger is now the king of Wakanda and the Black Panther.
Lord, help us all.
Well, let me first say that Jania's bias to these movies are clearly showing because these are some in-depth.
I couldn't take stuff out.
Listen, the rest of them would been like, listen, he won. He won, and then he was king. And then I just like my reviews, though. I always do that. You didn't like them.
Honestly, if I had spent 30 more minutes with it, I probably could have cut it down a bit more, but it was just too good.
Yeah.
These stories.
As soon as Killmonger is named king and ingests the heart-shaped herb to become the Black Panther, he does two things. One, burns the sacred garden that contains the heart-shaped herb, so he would be the last Black Panther. And two, begins to prepare the Wakandan military force to deploy vibranium to Black people around the world via the Wakandan spies that, like his father, were already sprinkled around the globe. Rather than participate with the rest of the kingdom that are being compelled to comply with King Killmonger's orders, the remaining parts of the existing royal family flee to the mountains to see if the Jabari people will help overthrow the new king. This includes Queen Ramonda, played by Angela Bassett.
Hello, Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett has been 25 for 25 years.
That's it. She's holding at 25. She is holding at 25.
Angela. Come on. Okay. Sorry,
Princess
brother.
Shuri, played by Letitia Wright.
You better get it, Letitia. Give them some strong arms.
And T'Challa, former lover and apparent soulmate of Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o.
Wait a minute. Pause. Don't keep going. Lupita Nyong'o. Yes, honey. Yes.
And Brittany, you're just an example of why this recap is so long. But you all were clearly not able to be objective about this recap. All right. Who also happens to be a highly skilled Wakanda spy. In fact, she is so skilled, she managed to grab one heart-shaped herb before Killmonger burned the garden. When they arrived in the mountains, frightened and mourning the loss of King T'Challa, the Jabari gave them food, shelter, and something they could have never expected. The Jabari people had found King T'Challa nearly frozen to death in the river, and they had rescued him. He was basically in a coma from his injuries. Queen Ramonda performed her Black Panther ceremony, pouring the heart-shaped herb into King T'Challa's mouth. It worked. King T'Challa, our Black Panther, is alive. You know what, Janelle? I'm going to read this like you wanted. I'm going to read this like you wanted me to read it. This sentence, at least. It worked! King T'Challa, our Black Panther, is alive! This means for the first time in history, there are two Black Panthers, T'Challa and Killmonger.
Oh my goodness.
This recap is so long.
And we're still not done.
It's so long.
This is really not a recap. This is just telling the movie. This is a theatrical retelling.
It's not appropriate. It's too long.
Coming to a theater near you.
The royal family makes their way back to the capital of Wakanda, where T'Challa and Killmonger engage in an epic battle for the future of Wakanda and really the fate of the world. Fortunately, T'Challa wins and rescues his place as king before any vibranium leaves the country's borders. Things can go back to the way they were, but they don't. King T'Challa was so changed by the event, he realized that Wakanda must use their resources to help oppressed people around the world. The first movie ends with him announcing this commitment to the United Nations, revealing the nature of Wakanda for the first time.
The second movie, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, picks up a few years later. While Wakanda has continued to thrive, it is also grappling with two horrible truths. The first is that the world did not graciously accept Wakanda's plan to build resource centers around the world to help undo the massive negative impacts of European colonization. Instead, world leaders have been demanding that Wakanda turn the vibranium over to them. Various countries have even sent their militaries to try to steal the vibranium. They have not been successful, but they keep trying. Wakanda knows what will happen if vibranium was ever handed over to any of these major countries: war, weapons of mass destruction, and more war. Frankly, this is why the country had kept its resources hidden for so long. The second horrible truth that Wakanda is grappling with is the death of their beloved King T'Challa. He succumbs to a horrible illness at the beginning of the movie, leaving Wakanda in mourning and for the first time in thousands of years without a Black Panther to serve as their protector, since Killmonger burned the garden of the heart-shaped herb. As she buries her son, Queen Ramonda is forced to take over leadership of Wakanda. Meanwhile, countries all over the world know the death of King T'Challa has made Wakanda vulnerable, so they are doubling down on their efforts to find vibranium. For example, America has been scouring the world's oceans using a vibranium detecting machine. Unfortunately for them, when they do detect some vibranium in the depths of the ocean, their ships are attacked by a group of water-breathing superhumans with blue skin. The Americans do not survive, and the CIA thinks Wakanda is responsible for the attack.
Always trying to blame the Black people. Wakanda is not responsible for the attack and is shocked to learn that there might be vibranium on Earth outside of Wakanda. Eventually, Queen Ramonda and Princess Shuri are visited by Namor, who is played by Tanaka Ruta. Hello! Hey, Tanaka!
Yum, yum again!
The leader of the underwater people that stopped the U.S. from retrieving the vibranium. We learned that Namor is the king of Talocan, an underwater kingdom of people descended from the Mayans that is actually more powerful than Wakanda. Just like Wakanda, its origin story includes a god leading the people to a plan that ultimately endowed them with special powers, including the ability to breathe underwater. Their land was being colonized by Europeans. Their land was being colonized by Europeans and their people enslaved. Escaping to their life underwater saved them. And just like Wakanda, they thrived because of vibranium. In addition to amazing technology, they also have the power to command the water and sea creatures like sharks and whales. In short, if they came for Wakanda and any other land-based people, they would win. Namor and the people of Talocan are angry with Wakanda because they incited the worldwide hunt for vibranium. Namor tells Queen Ramonda and Princess Shuri that they have two choices: prove themselves to be an ally by bringing Namor, the scientist that invented the vibranium finding machine, or Wakanda can get ready to be attacked. The queen and the princess know they will be no match for Talocan. So they create a plan to find the scientist. It turns out it's a young MIT student, Riri Williams. Am I saying her name right? Riri?
I think it's Riri.
Riri Williams, played by Dominique Thomas. Girl, You are so good.
Yeah,
Okay.
she did a great job.
Thank you. Okay. That is a math and science genius. The Wakandans grab her just in time because the U.S. government is coming for her too. After they meet the young woman, they know there is no way they can turn her over to Namor to be killed. And Princess Shuri tells him so.
Of course, this means war. Talocan attacks Wakanda, and there is an epic battle on land and in water. During the course of battle, several important things happen. Number one, the Jabari people under the leadership of M'Baku come through to help Wakanda right on time like they did in the first movie. Number two, Shuri is able to create a synthetic version of the heart-shaped herb that she uses to become the Black Panther herself. Number three, Queen Ramonda dies saving Rory, the young scientist.
When Shuri will kill somebody.
When Shuri, as Black Panther, is in a face-off with Namor, she ultimately has the chance to kill him, but doesn't. Her first instinct, though, is to kill him. The death of her father, this is definitely not a recap. The death of her father, brother, and mother has made her bitter and angry. I'm sorry.
Thank you for coming to watch.
I think normally we do a synopsis, and this is truly a recap. It's a play-by-play.
This is the movie.
Oh, and there's so much stuff I took out. Could have been longer.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Could have been longer.
Number two. Okay. Where we are. On some level, the death of her father, brother, and mother have made her bitter and angry, and she is disgusted by the way the world is behaving over vibranium. On some level, she really wants to pick up where Killmonger left off, using vibranium to salute Wakanda.
Situate
Wakanda as the world superpower by overcoming oppressors across the world. Instead, she decides to live in her late brother's legacy and be the kind of leader that he was, positioning Wakanda as the resource to empower rather than the means to revenge on oppressors. She offers Namor the chance to yield, and he takes it. It's a good thing, too, because Namor's forces were just about to overtake Wakanda when Shuri and Namor decided to become allies. Even though Shuri is now the Black Panther and M'Baku is named the King of Wakanda, he has proven himself capable and honorable enough for the role many times at this point. And Shuri really needs some time to mourn all of the losses. She is not emotionally ready to lead the people in that moment. She ends up going to Haiti and spends some time with Nakia. What?
Haiti.
Her late brother's soulmate, who reveals that she has been raising her and King T'Challa's son there in secret, away from the pressure of the kingdom. This young heir had a close relationship with his father until he passed and was well aware of his birthright and identity. He tells Shuri that his Haitian name was Toussaint, but his Wakanda name is T'Challa.
Yes, honey. Yes.
Yo.
I don't even need to go and do any research. I'm quite sure that was the longest recap
we've ever done. I'm sure it is.
Listen.
Well, after that,
we already know how Janiyah's voted. Yeah, we already know how Janiyah's voted. And we're pretty sure how Brittany's voted.
Oh my gosh.
You just know that I'm married to all those men I named. That's all you know.
Well, we're going to be sister wives.
Hello.
Well, here's a question for y'all. And again, this is something that could have been in the recap, but somebody was trying to show some restraint.
I don't know who.
What? Right. How did y'all? I think we have to start out with discussing how they handled the passing of T'Challa, which is really us, the world, mourning the loss of Chadwick Boseman. the original Black Panther, who suffered with colon cancer. And, he was actually 2 years into his 4-year battle with colon cancer when the movie came out, when that original first Black Panther movie came out. And so the Wakanda Forever movie had the burden of somehow handling the death of Chadwick Boseman. Now, for some of the Marvel movies, they'll just swap out the actor and keep it moving. Okay. But that's not what they chose to do for this movie. So I would love to start there, y'all, and just get your thoughts on your reactions to how they handled Chadwick Boseman's death and the death of King T'Challa.
I appreciated it. I love how they did it twice. I love how in the beginning, Marvel started off by making sure, because, in Marvel movies, they'll put up the Marvel logo and they have, pictures of all of the superheroes. And this time it was just a memorial to Chadwick Boseman and all his various scenes in various movies, because the Black Panther was also in Infinity Wars and a couple of one or two, Endgame. Thank you. And so just being able to see him in his various roles within the Marvel universe was really beautiful. I love also, though, that at the beginning it was a celebration. I know that I was crying like everybody else. I literally brought tissue with me because I said, listen, I know who I am. I'm very self-aware. And I said, I'm going to be crying like he was my cousin. Okay. And so I was like, when I saw the celebration, it did help me. I cried, but it was more so, it was a celebration of his life. Chadwick Boseman, just as an actor, he has done so many pivotal roles in the Black community, telling so many Black stories.
Yep.
And just even his own story as becoming an actor. I think about what Denzel Washington can be, how he may feel right now, sitting in awe, knowing that he helped bring this person to us in terms of paying for his schooling. And so I just think about all these things. And then just at the end, watching Shuri mourn her brother, but also on some level, you knew she was also mourning Chadwick Boseman. And so being able to see him again, and there being this memorial to him, it is like, you are gone, but you are never forgotten, which is just like any family member that you love so much. In a real life, you are gone, but you are never forgotten. We can't see you, but who you are will live on with us forever because you have impacted us. And so I was no good. I was no good, both watching it at the beginning. I was like, oh, where'd he go? Where'd he go? And at the end, it was the same thing. And so, and even just watching the interview of Chadwick Boseman's wife speak about him and their relationship and who he was. And I was just watching just this kind of unfold it's been sad, but also beautiful. And so anyway, I just feel like they did it justice. They didn't do anything janky. They didn't do anything that was like, okay, y'all. They didn't do anything that was real. They made it seem so realistic to watch this family process. And so I think they shout out Ryan Coogler, whoever else had that idea. You did.
What did you think, bro?
I really was really satisfied with how they handled it. It was the thing that probably concerned me the most, just in the sense that it's a real tricky situation. So, like, you definitely couldn't just switch them out. And I didn't think they would, even back when you first heard what was happening, I didn't think they would try to do that. But I did think they might do some type of weird CGI stuff to like bring him back like on the astral plane. And when Shuri was first going to the ancestral plane, I thought, all right, they're gonna
Me too.
Yeah.
Me
I was like, they're about to CGI this up, and we're just gonna have to like
bear through it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really happy with the direction they decided, and I think that given what happened, I really walked away feeling like they pieced it together the best, you know what I mean, that it could be, because it was such a big character, from a big movie. It's like, and somebody who, whatever you think, he's meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yes.
So it's just like,
yes.
How do you juggle all of these and still tell a story? And I'm gonna tell you that I also think that also helped boost the movie for me in general, because I walked in with very tempered expectations for this for this movie. But I think because my expectations weren't the highest, the fact that they did well with that allowed me to be like excited about just watching the story.
Yeah. And bro, I rewatching the original Black Panther right before going to go see Wakanda Forever. I walked in with the highest of expectations, and it was because for all of it. And it was because Black Panther, the original, had done such a good job from my perspective of holding difficult topics in a way that was interesting and compelling and still just a great story. So these movies are like, they are about racism and they're about oppression and marginalization. But they make this story so dynamic that you're learning the lesson and you're having that conversation. But at the same time, you're being entertained, you're being entertained. And so I walked in feeling very confident they were going to do right by Chadwick Boseman's death. I felt like there was going to be I felt like they had the ability to hold it, but I also thought, bro, they were going to do some kind of CGI, like using some old footage we hadn't seen to kind of splice them in. And just like the two of you, and I love the language. I think it was you said you were satisfied. I was really, really satisfied with how they handled it, because I felt like, to be honest with you, I felt like I got some closure as an individual, and it's not even about us getting closure as people who didn't know him personally, you know what I mean? But as a Black person that was, he had become iconic to us in terms of who he was as an actor and a person. There's just like a gap. There's just like a void, it's like he should be there and he isn't. And I feel a little bit more complete with that now, because of how well they allowed us to mourn him and celebrate him at the top of the movie. And honestly, in some ways, it helped me to be able to handle the rest of the movie, because they just put it right at the beginning so we could just be in it together, And the last thing I'll say on that, the way they handled Chadwick Boseman's death was that they made it a celebration of life, which is definitely what Black people do. That's totally our MO. Our mourning, it is always celebratory. That's just the way we roll. And I was so happy that truth of the way we celebrate the end of a life was so present in the movie without losing the actual weight of the death. And y'all, that actress, Letitia Wright, who played Shuri, I mean, can you imagine your father, your brother, and your mother, your whole family being taken from you through just trying to be noble leaders? And you just sitting here now trying to survive all of it, us watching her pain in the movie, but in particular in the opening montage, I thought, again, it just felt very true.
It was big. I love that. It's so true. And I think that just as well, I think about Chadwick Boseman. You really hit the nail on the head when you said it helped you to mourn as well his person. I think this is when we find people who transcend being an actor or an actress.
Yes.
When they are doing something that makes you step back and go, wow, like I did not know you, but your impact, who you presented yourself to be, the character that you present, and not just a character on the screen, but your character as a person, your personality, the things that you portray to us. Chadwick Boseman, you are huge. There's not going to be like a Chadwick Jr. It's like you were, and you were who you are, and we will always appreciate who you have been to us. Now, outside of Marvel, but just even just in some of the words that he has said, very wise man, a very wise man. And so just, well, I love how you just put that. Like, it did help you process, even though you didn't have to, right? Because, we don't know him. But it was a gracious allowing us to process that way. So I agree with that 100%.
And rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. We'll be thinking of you forever,
Always.
And that's and sis, when you started to broaden things a little bit, it takes us into this larger conversation of the plot, and so I'm thinking about the overall plot of these movies. And at the center of it, it's like we have this Black country that could go and help other Black people, but at the beginning was making the choice to say, you know what, we just got to take care of ourselves. And then in the second movie, they've made a different choice to kind of say, no, we're going to go and try to be a resource and help others. And we see what happens in both scenarios. And
can't win to lose.
I would love to get your, raising now just a discussion on the plot, just the concept, because it does make you just kind of think, what would happen if Black people had a tool that we could use to undo some of these things that have happened? Would we use it? Or would we say, we're keeping it to ourselves? Or would we try to, reverse things and become the world power? What would we do? Anyway, so just the general plot, and really of both movies.
I thought, as it relates to comic book movies, it's dealing with some deep themes and things like that. And I think that for me, thinking about the plot of comic book movies too hard always kind of takes me out of it, because at the face of it, when you're talking about Wakanda as a concept, it's like you're hiding a whole country. It's hard. It's hard. Nobody knows about
the
Wakanda,
technology, bro. They're using the technology to hide it. Duh.
And that's the thing about vibranium. It's all right, we got something that can just do whatever we wanted to do.
Totally.
It's
so good.
It does everything.
These moments of, it's like wherever the plot would have maybe got a little, shaky, it's just, we got this magic thing that does whatever.
Man,
So for
you about to die? Don't worry. Here's a beat.
A bead of vibranium.
Yeah, the bead is just vibranium right in your chest. Bang. Now you're good.
You good.
So as far as plot goes, I tend to blur my thoughts and try not to even think about the plot too much, because if I do, it's going to start asking questions that will take me out of.
That's such a good point. Yeah.
Of the
period.
And right now, especially, I really am feeling comic book movie fatigue, and I know that you all haven't really watched all of the, you haven't been through this whole Marvel arc, and especially with the big phase that just concluded with Endgame. And
I've watched all the movies, but I've never read any of the comics.
Well, no, I mean, but even watching the movies is saying something.
I'm the one that hasn't watched all the movies.
Even watching the movies, but I'm just saying, like having been through all these movies, it's like,
and it's a lot. I mean, just to be clear,
it is.
Black Panther was 18, and in the 18th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2018.
Yeah.
And now in 2022, Wakanda Forever is the 30th film.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But bro, until you just said that, it didn't hit me. Right. It didn't hit me.
TV shows too.
Yeah.
TV shows, just
right. That's a lot in just a couple of years.
So much content. And the thing that was fun about it was watching like this story get pieced together. But now there's so many branches and so many, multiverses and just all this stuff that's happening. It's like I'm not walking into any comic book movie. I'm not as excited as I once was. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's been so much. It's just like The Walking Dead. I don't know what season The Walking Dead is on right now, but like when I first started watching The Walking Dead, I was in. Like I was lost.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember you were loving that show.
There wasn't even something that I can't even go to a specific point, but I just stopped watching it. It was like I just kind of faded off. It just like I don't even care what happened, you know. And like I'm trying not to feel that because these comic book movies usually they would get somebody like me who grew up in my era. You'd be so hyped, but now it's just like, all right.
I'm in it, so I gotta go see the next one.
I have a question. Do you feel like that is because of an overstimulation, of comic book movies, or do you feel like it's just with age? Like sometimes these things you're just like, this is nice, but I'm looking for something different now. I don't think I'll ever reach the level of maturity where I don't like seeing, the type of stuff I like seeing, but I think that what the difference is now, and I was watching a lot of information talking about this before, if you're talking about the 80s and like even the 90s, movies had one job, make a good story. Like that's it. That was, you weren't meeting any agendas. You weren't trying to satisfy a particular, you were just making a movie. And these movies fell into different categories that would, highlight this issue or that issue, and sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes it'd just be a fun movie. But now all the movies have this feeling that they have so many boxes to tick. And that just makes it kind of tiring watching it because it's just like, and the other thing is the biggest thing is just about making money. So you feel that feeling of, I'm just feeding you what I know you're going to come pay for in the theater. And the reason because of that is, before I was watching Matt Damon talk about it, he was like, before we had like 2 openings of a movie. He was like, the first opening would be the opening. And he was like, but then you had the DVD opening. And he said, you can focus on making a good movie that might not pop in the theater because as soon as the DVDs come out, now people are going to start loving it and buying it. But now they have to make it so that they're going to get people to come in. So it just, when you're in the movies now, you feel like, okay, that's the box you check. That's the box you check. That's the box you check. Instead of just, you know what I mean? So these
Bro, can I just say, you are giving me such a different perspective on things right now. You really are, because and again, I think it is because I have not kept up, and I watch the Marvel movies, I've seen many of them. And also I watch some of the television shows, I watch Daredevil, I watch She-Hulk, like I'm in it, but not to the extent you have been, bro, in terms of being completely committed to keeping up. And so when I walked into Wakanda Forever, I genuinely had this feeling of like, wow, like I'm watching everything like, wow, like who thought of this? Now I guess it probably helped that I was again front row, middle, literally.
You were in Wakanda.
Surround sound.
Yeah, literally, I had to move my head from left to right to read subtitles. That's how close I was.
You were like, yeah,
yeah, totally. I was like, oh my
God, look at this.
But I will just say, I had the genuine awe. An opportunity for the genuine awe. I really did. I got to have moments of like, oh my gosh, what has technology done that we can create this kind of thing on stage? My gosh, who can write this complex story like this?
Right.
But bro, I guess if I was seeing it 3 times a year, I might not feel what I felt. And bro, I just never thought about it. You're shocking my mind to change my mind right now.
It's just, like, think about Iron Man back in 2008.
I heard that was an awe. That was a real one.
You're like, yo, this is crazy.
This is bananas.
You know what I'm saying?
Who thought of this?
And they take you through this journey for years and years. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if it was just about the storytelling, they would have probably just stopped the end game and at least just let it chill for a while.
Yeah.
But it's not about that anymore. It's about, we got their attention. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. And I'm going to still go, I'm going to still go, but it's not like, it's not like it was. It doesn't give me, but I'm going to say this though. I was actually happy that they didn't overdo it to try to compensate for that. And I thought that was another fear that I had. I thought that they were going to go so over the top with like the fight scenes and stuff to try to make it, but they didn't. I felt like they did it exciting enough.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they weren't doing anything.
You said so many things, bro.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you made me think about was the fact that people are like having an agenda to prove a point about something. And it's so interesting to me to hear you say that, because I feel like movies have always done that, but they've done it in their own way. And I feel like even if it was, even when we watched Terminator, even though they weren't trying to, they made the smartest person a Black man with a Black family. And so I think that when I'm looking at these things, I feel like people are always putting nuggets in something, whether it's, what is the word I'm looking for, overt or covert. Mm-hmm. Even whether it's one of those, they're always putting a little sprinkle of something in a movie, even if it's just to tell a theme like, children don't get a chance to share their opinions with their parents. Or if it's a theme of like, technology's about to kill us all. It's like, if it's the robots are going to take over. Even if it's something that is so just real small, but you get a chance to walk away from it having a good movie, but you're also thinking about a larger story that you don't even realize you're having an introspection into. Like, you're having introspection into this particular topic. You don't even realize that that's happening. So I hear what you're saying, but part of me is like, I feel like I'm always getting a little something, but also I have to think about my own brain, right? I'm always like, I
think what you're saying is true, but for me, it's just a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if I extrapolate a message out of an amazing story you're telling, is much different than you telling a story to strictly try to get a message across.
Absolutely.
Like,
I see what you mean. I see what you mean, bro.
The former is much more impactful.
Yeah, and it's about it being done well, and it's one of these things. You all know that now that I've been studying writing and truly being a student of like, what is good writing, for television and for the big screen, and so much that is at the center of what an audience experiences as a good story is characters being well developed. And so if the character is well developed, even if it's like a funny, even if it's like the Brady Bunch movie, right? But if a character is well developed and you could truly understand that character, you're going to go on the journey with them. And so whatever they are experiencing, there's an opportunity for a takeaway for you, because if a well-written character will have an arc, they will go through something and they will have a takeaway. And so you will get a takeaway.
Right.
It's so true.
It's well-written, you know.
No,
so
I will also,
it's central. Mm-hmm.
The other thing that you were talking about was just, you know, comic movies altogether, because now we have Marvel, you also have DC. Which, honey,
and they all got their TV shows and movies and stuff too.
All of it.
And I do know I'm less plugged into that one. I've got
Me
less.
too.
Yeah.
Listen, they all run together to me. I was like, Superman and Black Panther.
Brittany in a Marvel movie, like when they gonna bring Superman in?
Exactly.
Are the X-Men in there?
Batman.
X-Men?
Yeah.
I thought y'all saw him in the
Batman
cafe.
can really do something right.
So as somebody who and this is what I have a friend who he is my go-to. If I have a question about any of these movies, DC or Marvel, I can ask him and he's like, oh. And then there was comic.
Does he do his hands like that?
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't do that. In my mind, that's how it's going.
That's how it's coming across to you.
Exactly. I'm like, yes, that makes sense. And so with me not being so entrenched, right, I am able to go into each movie how Janiyah went into Black Panther.
Right.
I can go into every last movie, even if there's 8 million of them. And when you said 30, I kind of sat back and I was like, Brittany, have you seen 30 movies and you didn't know it? And I was like, I think I have seen 30 movies and I didn't know it.
They make it doable. They make it doable.
And so I was thinking to myself, I do go into each movie like that. But the reason why is because I do not care to connect them. People and this is also why I love going into these movies, because I hear people go, and I'm like, who is this?
Well, but sis, you know what? And you had brought this up in a prior podcast of ours. I can't remember what we were talking about, but you were talking about how the business, relationships also impact how these characters show up and which characters show up. And so I have a little trivia for us. Okay. Yes. And so Ryan Coogler actually wanted the original Black Panther movie to feature the supervillain Kraven the Hunter, who has been a rival of the Black Panther in the comics. However, that character is primarily a Spider-Man enemy, and the Sony Columbia Pictures holds the right to Spider-Man, and they refuse permission.
Wow.
Right. Wow. And so
I bet they regret that.
Well, but the point is,
missed out on some chips.
The point is, it was business. It was business, and it was ownership of character rights and things like that impacted how the story was written.
Right.
What would Ryan Coogler have come up with if he had been able to just follow the comic
story? Like, what would have been the best story?
Yeah.
What was his original idea?
And I was just to that point, whatever story that they were like, well, okay, we're going to tell this. But I will say this, Black Panther, however, I have placed it in a separate category, even though it's a part of this universe. I have put it in a separate thing where I was preparing for it. I was watching interviews, or wait, let me take that back. Not watching interviews, because I was like, I don't want to know anything. I don't care what anybody's thinking. I don't want to talk to I don't want, I was preparing for it in that way. Both of them. I was so excited, which to me gets to that point though of what Aubrey is talking about, of it having a purpose. And it having this deeper narrative for young people to see themselves, young Black people to see themselves futuristically and in a space in this way. That was on purpose, but it was also something that Wakanda is Black Panther is a comic book from years ago. So it was also probably having, a bit of that purpose in it anyway. So when I think about all these things, which I think can move us into talking a little bit more about each character's plight. So like getting into speaking about Killmonger and versus T'Challa, and just both of their backgrounds on their perspective of vibranium.
Take us there, sis. Take us there. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
I think T'Challa was somebody who he was going by the traditions of his family. And he was also, which many people can probably attest to, there was some family secrets. Things he didn't know about some stuff.
Didn't know.
He didn't know about some stuff. And of course, the oldest family friend was like, well, as he's harvesting the heart-shaped herb, there's a couple of things that happen. And so when you're getting into seeing someone who's trying to live out what they've known, what they've learned, I'm protecting my people, I'm making sure that Wakandans are okay, I'm doing right by that, not realizing that I am cutting off the rest of my people around the world, even on the same continent.
I would edit, sis, to say they do recognize that, but they were making the choice to do it.
Right. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like this choice to be like, listen, we can't
take responsibility for all of that.
We just have our people. We're going to save our people, making sure, and even to the point where in the second movie, Okoye is calling from MIT, which we know in the United States, MIT is like one of the greatest, right? If you're going there for technology and all these different things. And then to hear Okoye say, yes, it's equivalent to a Wakandan village school. And it just made me laugh. It was so funny just to kind of hear her say that, because I was like, I guess it is if you grew up with vibranium your entire existence.
Yeah.
So seeing that be the reality of Wakandans, then you get to a Killmonger who he has this birthright, which, honey, we can get into the whole deeper context of what that is actually representing. I ain't going to do that, though. But him having this birthright to Wakanda, but having none of the resources, none of the actual, what is the word I'm looking for, accessibility to what they have, because he was born in a different country. And so just that deeper narrative of now I'm here, I see outside the world, everyone is suffering, and y'all have a way for us not to suffer, and you're keeping it a secret? No, we're not doing that. While you're like, okay, Killmonger, you're going about it in a way that I don't really know if that's the best, but I see where you're coming from. And I agree, but let's try something a little more subtle, maybe. I don't know. But the other side of me is like, but everybody else ain't been subtle.
Yeah,
we gotta be subtle.
And you know what? And sis, so much of what you're hitting on is really it is the burden of leadership. Okay, and I'm not, and at the risk of comparing myself to Wakandan royalty. Okay,
I will just say, I
do have one of them good earrings. They're nice.
Listen, that's the vibranium necklace.
That's right.
Hello.
I mean, I will just say on maybe at least a weekly basis in my role as like leading operations for a social justice organization, I am making some decision that will have significant impact on the direction of the institution. And there's more than one option available. And any path could work. You could allocate the budget to do this, or you could allocate the budget to do that. And both options could lead you down a viable, sustainable path. So there's always like multiple possibilities. And it is the burden of leadership to say, well, based on what I know and based on, what I am holding as my interpretation of the priorities, this is where we're going. This is where we're going. And it's the fact of it, and I'm not trying to let T'Challa's father off the hook for killing his brother and leaving a child over in California with no help, no resources, no access, no nothing. I'm not trying to let him off the hook. But those high stakes decisions of like, I have to make a judgment call here. I feel like that is the name of the game. And there's also something that is always a part of leadership that is about keeping secrets, because part of it is you're always going to have more information than everybody else. It's just the nature of it, because everybody can't have all the information. It's just not possible for everybody to have all the information. And it's also not sustainable for everybody to have all the information. And so you're in the role, you have more information than everybody else. And then you also have the responsibility to make decisions for people that factor in information that they don't know. Okay. And you then have the power to activate on the thing that you think is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And so it's just very, very complex, because if things don't go well, it is your fault.
It's your fault.
Because you had all the information. But if things do go well, it is also your fault, because you had all the information.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the antagonists in both of these movies, I feel like, were more interesting than most times in a comic book movie, just in the sense of in most comic book movies, except for Thanos. Thanos had like logical reasons for doing what he was doing, right or wrong. But this is one thing that this movie brought to the front, is that we are talking about very complex things here, in the sense that you see how, like, Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character was talking about, about America having all of about radio. And then she was like, we would love it. I would love that.
It was like, I dream of it.
And I was watching one of the critics that I like the most on YouTube. And he was talking about this almost like, yeah, y'all are really trying to make a point that America is, imperialist and that kind of thing. And it's like, it's so interesting, because it's like, I get what you were saying, that yes, that point was trying to be made, but that's what would happen. Like that's what would happen. And I know that it's just interesting showing Wakanda in this situation where if everybody would just live in harmony and they knew that's how it would be, they would be more than willing to share.
I mean,
totally. They would have been shared it.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, the way humans are, it's that somebody's always trying to be on top. It's just always this fighting to be on top. And it's like, if we give them this tool that could just tear this world to shreds, just like you're talking about, Janai, we would be responsible for that on some level. Mm-hmm. So we can't just give it out willy-nilly. And every antagonist had those interesting thoughts of, like, when you talk about Killmonger, everything he said, it wasn't wrong. You might not agree with him, but I'm just saying the facts behind what he was saying were not wrong. Just like for Namor, and Namor was actually the first Marvel character, he was actually the first superhero in the Marvel universe. And it's funny that it took him this long to actually show up in the movie. But Janai's looking like she had that as a...
I had some factoids on Namor, not that one though, bro.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Because you had that look like you messed up one of my factoids.
No. Listen, this is exactly why I don't look up nothing. I'm going to just find out from somebody else.
But what I'm saying is that even showing, like, Namor might have been over the top with how you wanted to handle the situation, but it's also, look at what happened.
Yeah.
Like it's like I'm telling you that this is what happened to me. And these stories aren't like crazy. So it's just like, yes, I like the point I'm trying to get to. You were talking about plots and characters, and I'm just saying, I like how in these movies, the characters are a bit more complex
Yeah,
than just, I'm evil because I'm evil. You know,
I want to
blow up the
rule
sun.
the world.
You know what I mean?
Let me tell you something. When they killed everybody in Wakanda Forever on that CIA ship and on that helicopter, listen, I said, this is not a situation where, normally you'll see somebody and go tell the people if they mess with me. They was like, y'all got to tell the people nothing. Because all y'all are dead. Here's some spears. Here's some people, some sirens who are singing and lure y'all off the boat to kill you and drown yourselves. Because y'all are not going to go back and do anything because I don't care. I don't care because you're not going to mess with my people. Y'all all about to die.
And it's so interesting.
Like, okay, name more.
And it's so interesting that the Talocan people had come to the same conclusion as the Wakandans, that we are just going to mind our own business. They had separately come to that same conclusion of like, you know what? We can't trust the world. And listen, the Talocan people, they weren't planning to come for anybody. They weren't planning to come for anybody. If governments had not started to come for them, they would have just been minding their own business, And I think that's an interesting question for us to discuss. Which one of these philosophies do you all kind of identify with? Do you identify with the philosophy of like, you know what? If I was in Wakanda, I'd be advocating for us keeping our stuff to ourselves? Or would you be advocating for Wakanda, let's get out there and see if we can? And actually, there's three perspectives. So the first is Wakanda, keep to ourselves. The second one is Wakanda, let's go and help unify people and empower the oppressed. And the third is let us go out and become the superpower and then create a more equitable world. Which one of those three paths, like if you were in Wakanda and you were sitting around that circle of elders, which one would you have been advocating for?
I hate this question.
I'll answer.
I hate this question. This is about to get into my private thoughts.
No. I would say
you can keep it high level.
I would say the first one, honestly, I wouldn't feel like it was possible over the long term. The second one also won't be possible because people won't let you just do that.
Yeah.
And
as we saw.
And the third one emotionally makes sense in the sense of, well, guess what? We're just going to take over all this. But then you risk being what you hated in the first place. Mm-hmm. And so like, I wouldn't know. I honestly wouldn't know because it would be like, because even if we just, in our mind, we just took over the world and made everything from what we consider peaceful, there might be 75% of the world is like, I like having war, man. And this is whack. Like, no, I can't. I don't like my neighbors over here. And I just want to fight with them.
Yeah.
And like, no, I can't because these Wakanda people try to keep everything peaceful. Mm-hmm. So I think that, honestly, I don't want to sound like a nihilist, but it's just the things that drive us as human beings, it seems like it always leads to the detriment of us, no matter how you slice that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
You would just excuse yourself from the council meeting.
No,
all right,
y'all go. I would want to be in the conversation. Let me know when you make a
decision. I gotta go bathroom.
I'll go with the majority. Bye.
Because I would lean towards, all right, if we're going to be the arbiters of this, power or whatever, like if we're going to be the ones, like how do we make sure we don't become what we're trying to destroy?
Absolutely.
Like I guess that's where my conversation would be, because it's like, just like we hate wills being imposed on us, where's the line of us imposing our will on somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't, I would want to be in a conversation, but I don't have a straight.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard.
Sis, what about you? Path A, B, or C?
Oh Lord. On one hand, I'm just, because my experience, right, is the US. Grew up here, lived here my entire life.
We have the Killmonger experience.
Listen, very much, right? And so, but in the same breath, it's like living in a nation where I know that I used to work for the Red Cross, and the number of homeless, mentally ill veterans is absurd. And then to know that there was someone rich enough to build a spaceship for the hell of it. When I know that these things are happening on the same place, my brain goes, I don't know what to do right now. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. But in the other breath, I'm like, you know what? If I could find a place where my people were safe and we didn't have to worry about anyone or anything, and we were self-sustaining, and if you tried to come up on us, mm-hmm. please do. We don't have an issue throwing hands. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna die. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. Like, if I knew that was a place, I would say, sign me up, cut up any other citizenship that I have. I am here, suited and booted, and building my own little shop so we can live and have a good time and be safe and free, and know that we don't have these other stupid worries to worry about. And so I'm torn, right? Because I feel the same way of like this superpower. I wouldn't want to go to some other country and say, this is the way to do things. This is the right way. I wouldn't want to do that, because the world is so diverse and so beautiful. There's so many, right down to just even the spices that are in different countries and how they eat and how they prepare food. I don't want to take any of that away, but there's always someone coming in and they're going, you all are dirty. Let me go ahead and.
Or you're not educated. Based on my terms, I'm going to educate you.
I'm going to go ahead and just wipe your whole people.
Your religions are wrong. Take mine.
Off of the face of the planet, to where we now think Australia looks like the way it is, but those are not the indigenous people of that land. Mm-hmm. We think the United States looks a certain way, but we are not the indigenous people of this land. Yeah. And so when I think about that, I'm like, well, these jokers have already done it all over the world. If there was those of us that maybe could come in and have just like this peaceful mindset of like, listen, we want to keep y'all safe. We want to do these things. We're trying to protect you from those that are nuts. Okay. And do it in that way. But that type of, we're talking centuries for that to even just be implemented, because it's been centuries to get us where we are today.
And sis, you really kind of put a fourth option out there. It didn't come up in the movies, right? Mm-hmm. So this is not that's not related to the movies. But sis, you kind of outlined a fourth paradigm where Wakanda would almost invite people in. Or basically create like they would invite people to be a part of their reality. And they would say, here are our terms. And if you want to be a part of this, we will do our part to enable you to opt in, and, maybe that would be a viable option. I will say for me, you all.
Just make that dome larger. Just as time goes on, just expand that invisible
They have
dome.
Vibranium. They can make it as big as they want. To Aubrey's point, it does add whatever you need it to do.
All of a sudden, the whole continent of Africa doesn't appear on any maps. There used to be a massive land here. It's gone.
It's gone.
It's all gone.
Totally. And I struggle with this, y'all. And I'm just going to say, like, whenever people ask like that icebreaker question of like, if you had unlimited resources, what would you do? My answer for more than 10, maybe 15 years has been, I would undo colonization. That has always been my answer. And I have always felt like the first step would be to go to a place and, understand what the culture was like before colonization and like put things back the way they were. So for example, whatever language was spoken there, make that once again be the primary language, and
not English.
Totally. And, whatever religions were there before, to go back and just educate the people about all those religions so they could opt into the ones that made sense, but allow them to know what was there before, and to understand even clothing. How did people dress before? Let's now take what we know now, but also let it be informed by the truth of what this place was. Because the thing about Wakanda, what makes it so wonderful is that it got to develop on its own. It got to just evolve however it evolved, with the people left up to their own devices.
Namor said it. He was like, my mother told me of this place that has never had to change. And that almost brought tears to my eyes.
Right.
I was like,
that's what makes it so amazing.
Never had to change.
But in my recipe for undoing colonization, I do become the person it's like I'm then dictating what it's supposed to be, and so then I then become the oppressor in that scenario.
Did they used to do that there? No.
That's what y'all doing now.
And if y'all try if y'all try to get on the subway, I'ma kill you.
They're like, well, I like my new shirt.
Well, too bad.
Is that the fabric of your people?
They're illegal now. So it's
but I'm gonna tell you.
I think Brittany's fourth paradigm
in dark rooms. I had to throw away all my Adidas.
But it's still the same in the sense of, like, if you're saying you got to be like this, that's the thing.
That's
like,
the
like
thing.
No matter how you. So I would think that. But I'm also say this just for sake of discussion. I could see an argument that's like, well, you know what? You're right. We are about to be imperialists, but it's our turn now. So it's been this imperialism for hundreds, however long.
And I feel like that's somewhere where I think Killmonger and his father were somewhere in that spectrum, because his father was basically saying, let's be the rulers, but let's do it the right way.
Yeah.
And so it's like he had a vision for equity,
right.
But he was like, we're not going to get there unless we take over. We have to take over so there can be equity. Right. And then Killmonger's whole thing, he definitely had like a let's get to equity, but it was more like by exterminating oppressors.
By any means.
It was by any means necessary. Yeah. But it was along the lines of what you're talking about, bro.
I think it would be interesting to, and we're talking about this like this is a real thing, but the last thing I'll say is that it might be interesting to set up the resources all over the world. Like saying, like, instead of giving people vibranium, it's like you just go to the hood, here's a brand new hospital, here's a brand new, and just put the stuff there.
That's it.
That they could do without giving them vibranium and still just letting them be able to take advantage of resources.
I think that's what they were doing because Wakanda, they were not handing over vibranium. They were just letting people benefit from vibranium wherever they built their resource centers, letting people benefit from their technology. So they were trying to do what you were saying, bro.
Yeah, and that's probably where I would land then. Like, that's probably, and the other thing is that I like how they didn't act like this. It wasn't like they were acting like this is a black and white issue. It's just like, it was just like you were saying tonight. They're like, look, this is the best we can figure out to do right now. Because obviously, if you're breaking in with guns and stuff, you're letting us know how it's going to be.
And I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, if I grew up like Killmonger, knowing there was a solution available, but it was not available to me, I would have landed exactly where he landed. Because right now, I personally am trying to use every tool I do know that is available to move us toward an equitable world. I mean, that I literally am. That's what I'm trying to do. I understand the importance of cooperative economics for Black people. I'm championing it all the time. People are sick of hearing me talk about it. I'm like, all right, well, if it's about changing hearts and minds, I'm working in the social justice sector, and I'm being a racial equity leader that's helping people to understand implicit bias. I personally am trying to use every tool that I know of. So if I knew of a tool that was available somewhere, and my dad even had it at some point, I honestly, y'all, I have probably been just like Killmonger. I'm not gonna lie, because that anger that he was feeling, I feel that anger. I feel that frustration, but there is no vibranium somewhere for us to go get.
Except for around your neck right now.
Right. Well, this necklace, that's the one piece. And it's not enough.
The conversation we're absolutely having is the reason why Princess Shuri saw Killmonger whenever she took the heart-shaped herb
and went to the ancestral plane.
Listen, the first time I saw it, because again, I saw it 3 times. The first time I saw it,
Brittany, how many times did you see it?
3 times. Okay, and I probably will see it every weekend that it's still in the theater. I just want to put that out there. I'm single with no kids. I can go do that. I want to spend some extra money somewhere. $300 million came from you.
Is it?
What'd you say?
Half that $300 million came from you.
Listen, they sent me a thank you letter. Actually, I have a vibranium statue.
Thank you for your efforts. Yeah,
that's awesome. I didn't want to put that out there because I don't want to be like bougie, whatever. And so,
so modest.
It's so modest. But I think about when in the theater, when she walked around that throne and he was sitting there with his knee up, the whole theater was like, oh, and you heard some people like, yes.
You did not expect it.
You just didn't expect it. And here is the thing that I love about it.
And let me just say that moment, I want you to finish your thought, but I just didn't want to get away from that moment. That was that moment I felt was great. Because the other thing is I know for me, I just had this sinking feeling like they're about to CGI Chadwick Boseman. It was just such an opposite of what I was expecting.
Yeah, I honestly thought they were going to do Angela Bassett because because the queen was dead by that point.
But she could have actually did the scene.
Yes.
Whereas,
but just in terms of like what I thought they might do on the ancestral plane. I thought it could have been the queen. I thought it could have been CGI Chadwick Boseman. But I did not expect Killmonger.
Yeah.
He was sitting up there with his knee up and he said, "Hey, cousin." Yeah.
It was so.
But listening, what he did was something like people like him do. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, I'm very grateful for these type of people in my life who play devil's advocate because they make me mad. And because I'm like, I don't want to think about that. I just want to do this one thing. But the people come in and they dig in a way that is not harmful, but they dig in a way that's loving. And he's like, no, I'm here because of you.
Yeah, you conjured me.
Think about it. Chadwick Boseman, when he went to T'Challa. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the movie. When T'Challa went back in the ancestral plane twice, he went to his daddy because it was like, oh my God, I missed you. What am I going to do with these leaders? The second time was like, what? And so, and then whenever we didn't get a chance to see Angela Bassett go into the go and see Chadwick Boseman, but she went to the ancestral plane, and I'm happy they just talked about it, right? To the CGI point. But then we have Killmonger who went back. He saw his father, and that was where he needed to go. And he was still angry when he came about that ancestral plan. He didn't have no understanding. And so it was, but he understood.
He did. He understood. He just drew a different conclusion. Exactly. That's the thing. It's still a valid conclusion.
So for him to come back and now be the one. So I just say all that to say everybody went to see who they needed.
That's right. That's right.
And so when we are having this internal dialogue, Shuri is mad.
Yes.
Princess Shuri is mad. My entire family is dead. They are gone. She said to M'Baku, the only people that knew me, the last person that truly understood me is gone, meaning I don't have anyone. And so to listen to her say that, so she's angry about that and just life. She's also someone who we've learned, right, because they reiterated it in the second movie, who scoffs at tradition So even for her going to do the ancestral plane, she didn't even believe that that existed. And so for her to then get into this place of where she's like, I am angry and I want revenge. Killmonger was like, we're not different. I wanted the same thing. And so it's just one of those things where you have to even get at yourself of how you are multifaceted and multi-layered. And so I think that that conversation was just happening when you gave us those options. Like, I could do
Who
this,
are we? Yeah.
Who are you?
And since you really just very naturally segued us to the acting. Okay, because we've talked about now some of these characters, and there's so many more we could discuss. Okay, but we've talked about some of these characters. Let's talk about the acting. You know,
you said talk about Namor. Excellent, we can do that.
Go ahead and start there. You know, I mean, you all. So we have. I mean, where would we even start? Okay, I want to kind of start with Shuri. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That Shuri, that Letitia Wright. Okay. This, you know, we experienced her in the first movie as just like a fun little sister who was like a brainiac du jour, you know, and to watch her become, to age through the experience of loss. Okay. And to have this increase in responsibility and this increase in pain, we watched her innocence leave her. And that's what we were seeing in the second movie. We were watching a woman who was carrying more than her share. And I just thought, I mean, to see the diversity of that actress, to see her play that fun little sister, to now being this woman who was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders, I thought she did an excellent job.
An amazing job. She told M'Baku, she said, when my mother died, so did my heart. I was like, listen here, child, the world better watch out because she's mad now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't feel like there were any weak parts of the cast. And and there were people who killed it. Everybody was good. But then there were like Angela Bassett.
Oh,
when
her monologue.
She walked in with all of her shoulders in glory.
Oh,
it was like, you know, I mean, you're in a movie, but you still felt the emotion of what someone would be feeling if this was real.
That's right.
Like that's how you felt. It's not like you were tricked, but it's like if I was actually in that all, this is how I would be feeling.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like of just how she just came in with just the power just dripping off her.
Yes.
And all of these, and because the story is very emotionally complex, it's like you need actors who can show like, I'm in an impossible situation.
That's right. That's right.
My husband is dead, my son is dead, and my daughter is lost. And I don't know if she's alive.
And I must lead this nation.
Because when Shuri got taken and like they were going back and forth, and what's her name?
Okoye?
Or Lupita Nyong'o's character?
No, Okoye. Okoye is the
she was the general for the Dora Milaje.
Yes, the bald one, right? So like
the bald-headed demon.
But I'm just saying,
played by Denai Guerra.
That interaction, I felt like they nailed it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
big time.
Because it was like her heart was breaking.
It was broken.
And the queen was like, what else can I do? And like I told you not to take her, and you know, did. She's my last.
And now she's lost.
Yeah, it's just, you can understand where everybody was coming from based on the emotions and how they were delivering. Like, I thought the movie was, especially compared to comic book movies, I thought it was very well acted. And I even thought when they were being funny, it was funny.
Absolutely. Funny. And I would go to
and with that doggone carrot. I was like, Winston Duke, you are just so good at being this arrogant, big macho.
Sis, I have a piece of trivia that you are going to love.
Okay.
And I almost texted you when I found this trivia, and I said, I'm going to reveal this trivia to Brittany on this podcast. She is not going to get it in advance.
You better start walking the channel now, right now.
Listen,
I'm clicking. Sis, your favorite line of M'Baku, he improvised that line. The "you bald-headed demon" line.
Really?
Brittany loved that line.
It was so funny.
Brittany's been talking about that line.
God, demon. I was like, this is so perfect to see, like, you are leading a nation of people. These are individuals. And almost like this sibling rivalry between him and Okoye. It was so funny and so fun to watch.
And that Winston Duke, you all, I just feel like he did an amazing job with that character. You know, I think about the complexity that we saw in that character in that first movie, you know, where it was like, listen, he was so clear on duty and tradition and honor. He was so clear on it that he saved T'Challa's life when he really could have really gotten away with not doing so. But because he understood honor and he understood the way that things were supposed to work, he did what he had to do. You know, down to taking care of these people that had essentially, I mean, it's not that they were at war, but they were just very much not necessarily in alignment. You know, the Jabari were very separate from the rest of the Wakandans, very, very separate, you know, but he knew, it was like he made those judgment calls about when to come together. And so at the end of the second movie, when he became king, all any of us could say was, yep, that sounds right. That sounds right. Because he had been walking in a kingly way ever since we met him.
Ever since we met him. Even went right down to, oh, did you ask me about Namor? Okay. Even when it got right down Namor.
Played by Tenoch Huerta.
Yes. When he was describing him, when they had brought the people back in Wakanda Forever to come and stay in Jabari land. And he was like, they call him a cuckoo god. I said, what did they say? What did they say in Baku? But him just talking, he was like, what do you think? We're up here in the mountains and we don't read? But what he was expressing was that they don't call him general or leader or boss, whatever. They call him by his name.
He's a god.
Is a god to them. He was like, if we kill him, we will have war forever. And then he got back to his own people. He said, I don't want that for my people to have to be in war forever. Oh. And so but just to the complexity of that character, but to speak about, listen, Namor, when he was speaking, it was such this, I was like, he is finna come to Pittsburgh and get me. I was like, just listening. He said, if you send anyone from Wakanda to get your princess, I will kill you. And it was not like I might, or let's see what happens. No. And in fact, he came and he did that and he killed Queen Ramonda. He killed her. And so when you have someone who is so dedicated to his people and his beliefs, he played
that role.
Character so well.
Yeah.
He did such an amazing job. And I was just like, you are a person who has been here since the 1600s.
And you know what? And he
everything.
had the like, when we're thinking about how all of these Black actors are playing these roles so well, at the end of the day, the struggle that they are dealing with at the heart of these movies, it is they're portraying an important part of the Black experience. And so when we see this actor playing Namor, listen, he is also from a people that are currently oppressed.
Yes.
You know, and so there's a truth that I think these actors are bringing forth because it's in their own experience. We're living this thing, you know. Another actor I got to call out really quickly is that little boy that played T'Challa's son. Okay, little baby T'Challa. Okay.
So
that actor's name is Divine Love Kanadu's son. Okay.
He's so handsome.
Listen, I said, well, y'all did top-notch casting on cuteness, number one, because that is the cutest little boy walking this earth, clearly. So cute. And he looked like if Lupita Nyong'o and Chadwick Boseman had a baby. It was just like perfect casting. But what I really wanted to call out about his actual acting was the way that when he revealed who he was to Shuri, he talked just like a prince. He held his identity as that. He held that legacy, and he said his name and named his legacy with a level of importance that was just perfect. When an actor can have a couple of lines and make an impact, that's some good acting. Okay. Listen. And I said, well, go ahead, little boy. Because you told us who you were that day.
And I don't know many years it's going to be till we get Black Panther 3.
Probably 5 minutes, based on what Aubrey's saying.
Right. But when we get it, I was thinking of the pressure. Whomever is about to play the older version of him. I was like, oh, who is
or they might he might just grow up, because maybe they'll do it while he's a child.
They could do that. Yeah. And so yes. Now, I have the one you probably, I don't know if you were about to talk about this, did you want me to get back to Namor? Okay. So
I was actually going to move us on to another topic to move us on down, but please go ahead, sis.
I just wanted to say the only factoid I have, which was funny, I was watching his interview, which people probably have already seen this, and it made me laugh. He said that he was talking on a Jimmy Kimmel show, and he was just talking about how he got this call from Ryan Coogler, and it was on Zoom, and the Zoom went out. And so he didn't hear anything that happened. It froze. And then all he came back, Ryan Coogler was like, is that okay? And he's like, oh, I just said yes.
It froze for 5 minutes. He missed the whole pitch and explanation of everything. All he knew was Ryan Coogler then saying, are you in? And he was like, yes.
And he said, when they asked him, did you know how to swim? He said, I never drowned. I love that so much because it was like, y'all not about to take this opportunity from me.
Yeah. He stole my heart. He stole my heart.
And I also appreciate it. A lot of times movies do not do well with casting people who are racially accurate. And I just appreciated it. Seeing a group of people who actually look like descendants of the Mayan people. Like I was and just even, I guess what this would move us into the next point, which is that underwater scene.
Yeah, let's go there. Let's talk about the visuals. Let's talk about the cinematography. Let's talk about the costumes. Take us there, sis.
When we went into Talocan, I was just like, the music fit perfectly, which I guess is even another topic that we would probably get into. I want to put it together.
Do it
because
together,
they created an experience. Mm-hmm. That music sounded like water. Yes. It sounded like water. And I was just like, I was playing it earlier whenever we got onto our Zoom. And I just really want to call out that song that was playing whenever it came on, because they did such an amazing job. It was called Con La Brisa by Fudaquesh and Ludwig Göransson.
And one day we're going to have licensing the music so we can play some.
Listen, yes. The way our introduction and then to go into this massive underwater city, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. And then seeing how I'll just say this, getting a chance to see people who are creative, get a chance to be creative. It was amazing.
Yes.
That right there, I just loved seeing Talocan and then them being such a happy people and so joyous and welcoming and doing their hand motion to show you that we're welcoming, and then just watching them just living and minding their business as was put in our telling of both of the movies. It wasn't a recap.
And bro, I wanted to ask you, have they depicted underwater worlds in other Marvel movies? And if so, how did this compare?
No,
Or this is the first?
Yeah, this is the first.
Okay.
That was the whole thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which was also exciting that they could get into some different, I mean, obviously there's been water scenes, but yeah, that's the only underwater civilization.
Yeah.
That was so dope, which gets into that conversation that people been having about Little Mermaid. We won't get into that.
That's a future
That's
podcast.
a future podcast.
Bro, what's your take on the cinematography, the sound, the music?
Well, that's you know, obviously one of the strengths about, I mean, like when you're talking about these sweeping, you know, just scenes of just and these landscapes and skylines and like you said, the underwater. And what I had to do again, you just have to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like you can't think about like, why if they weren't living on land, why would they look like land people? You know, like muscular, you know, their muscles and just you would think they would look different. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
But
there's a lot
gills.
of water pressure down there. They got
had
Planet
gills.
Fitnesses in Talocan. Don't do them like that.
I'm not even.
They're lifting up sea.
My point is that I've seen a lot of people critiquing this movie, and it may be in different ways. You know, it's getting a lot of positive praise. But I like listening to all different aspects, and people talk about like things being unrealistic, and I used to be. Well, I'm not gonna say I'm not anymore. I'm guilty of that myself. But at some point, it's like, yo, it's a movie. Just relax.
Go with it.
It's a movie about people that woke up as fish people.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. Just, you know, I get that. What you're saying isn't that wrong. Like you're not. But if everything was how it was in real life, it would be a documentary based on something like it, at some point. It's a movie.
Yeah.
So, but I see that, and I also see that it's interesting to me that some people have difficulty tapping in to the emotions of these characters because, and I don't even want to get my sister started, trust me, but I'm just saying.
I don't even know what you're about to say, but I'm ready.
I know you are. I know because you're boring, but I'm just saying it's interesting to see some people critique the motivations and the worldviews of these people who are in these nations because they just don't have a concept of that.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's like, it's like, you know, why wouldn't you give everybody vibranium? It's like they don't realize that, like, yo, there's people who, like, this is all fiction right here, but there are people who have felt these emotions and feel these emotions for real.
Totally.
And it's difficult. And it's like, you're forcing me to say stuff like, you just don't get it. And I don't like saying stuff like that. I don't like saying
superhero movie.
But it's just like, yo.
It's true. It's true because at the end of the day, it's just the facts of it. It's just the facts of it that marginalized people will always understand the oppressor better than the oppressor. The oppressor could read all the books and talk to all the people who have been oppressed, and they still won't actually understand the experience of being oppressed. And so there comes a point where you just can't explain it. You know, and that's why somebody like Killmonger would just say, you know what, we're not going to try to explain it. We're just going to really undo this because you're because the fact that you did it lets us know that you're not going to get why it needs to be undone. You know, and on the cinematography and the sound of the music, y'all, just the whole visual aspect, I just have to say, and again, I when I say I was in awe, I'm sure that if someone recorded me watching Wakanda Forever, it would have been me mouth agape, you know, smiling and enjoy like the entire time, because it was just like every single screen of every single bit of both of these movies to me, visually stunning. And you could just see the care that was put into every single costume, every single lighting choice, every single bit of landscape. It was just like nothing was taken for granted. Every single thing, there was obviously like a thought put into it, and there's a reason why. And I just want to give you a bit of example, and this, but can I also say this is the beauty of having a budget. There are a lot of people out here with these wonderful creative minds and intentions, but you need budget and you need access to be able to bring these kinds of things to life. Ryan Coogler would still be Ryan Coogler if Marvel had never tapped him. Do you see? But you take somebody like Ryan Coogler and you give him that Marvel budget, okay, and get him this Marvel staffing, and you see what happens. All right. So the filmmakers for the created a unique culture for each of the Wakandan tribes, and you can see it visually and you're capturing it visually. But I just wanted to share with you some of the language about how it's described. And this is from IMDb, because, they have like great trivia on IMDb. So the Golden Tribe, which is the royal family, they use a motif of black and a continental symbol for the sun found throughout Africa. They also have panther-themed designs. The Border Tribe was inspired by Lesotho architecture and language. And the tribe symbol is a Lesotho word for horsemen. Okay. And their motif is blue, which is a national Lesotho character, and wood. And they use rhino-themed weapons, attack rhinos, shields, and horn-shaped blades. And they frequently wear Basotho blankets, which are the Basotho are the majority in Lesotho. So this is the level of detail and care. The River Tribe was inspired by the Surma and Maasai of Ethiopia. Okay, Nilotic peoples who hail from the River Nile. Their motif is green and shells, and they wear crocodile skins and leather. The Mining Tribe was inspired by the Himba and Maasai of Southern Africa, and their motif is red and orange, and they wear lion-themed designs. The Merchant Tribe was inspired by the Tuareg of the Sahara, and their motif is purple. And the Jabari Tribe was inspired by the Bari, Igbo, and Dogon of Western Africa. And they are shamanistic naturalist tribes, and they wear fur and wood to honor the sacred animal, the gorilla. So, it's just, even if we only got
more research in some of these movies that say we're based on true events.
Exactly. And so you just think about what we got to see is just, oh, look, they put a lot of care into giving each of these tribes a unique identity. We were able to see that. But I just wanted to share those specific tidbits because it wasn't just a visual distinction that they were making for us. They were truly trying to represent a variety of cultures in a truthful and loving and caring way. This is how you hold cultures without it being appropriation. You see what I'm saying? There's a way to do it, So, y'all, I think we've hit all the main. There's obviously so much more we could talk about. Yes. Okay. But I think we've hit on all of our main categories, y'all, for discussion. I think we're ready for a vote. What do you say?
Let's go.
Take it away, bro.
Yes, this movie is a classic one. It will be one that I always watch. Yep. So definitely gets my heart-shaped ib.
Yeah, this franchise definitely gets my heart-shaped herb. And because it gets my heart. Okay, I think
from that
19-page recap.
That reenactment. That was level reenactment. We'll give it that.
For me, what makes these movies so special is the way that they were holding so many truths of the experiences of people of color, and also had all the cinematic elements, And so I was like, man, if you walk away from this movie having learned nothing and only been entertained, you dumb. You are willfully trying not to have learned something, okay? And if you walk away from this movie only learning something and not being entertained, same thing, you dumb. You weren't even trying to have a good time, Okay, because
Janiyah doesn't need the vibranium powder. You do not.
We'll take on that responsibility.
I'll get all this stuff in the
world. We'll keep her together. We won't let her get to it. We already.
But
know.
the point is,
you can almost see the spear like creating in her head as she's talking.
Oh, listen, I just feel like this was just really well done. It's one of the things I think about sometimes is like, if I was just reading this script, would it still be good? Because how sometimes a movie is only good or a show is only good because that actor is funny. But it's like, if you were just reading it, it probably wouldn't be funny.
Right.
Like think about Urkel. If you were just reading on the page, did I do that? Is that funny? It maybe. But it was the fact that it was the way it was delivered.
Right.
With this movie, I feel like if you were just reading it, your mind would still be shocked to Channel 9. If you didn't get the chance to see all the visuals, you would just read this story and read these lines, you'd be like, man, this is really special. And I feel that way about both of the movies. And that is why this franchise gets my heart-shaped herb.
Oh, man. Well, if we don't know already, this definitely gets my heart-shaped ebb. Listen. Ebb, like, I want to just there's so many things that I could say, but I want to just describe the feeling I felt whenever I saw Princess Shuri, who had become Black Panther at that point, and Namor coming in on one of the Wakandan ships and stopping their people from fighting. And watching this ally happen of two of the most powerful places on Earth. And now you have land and water who are powerful and them come together. When a movie can make me walk away and go, when is the preview for the next movie? I am invested. And y'all already know from all seasons and from most of the movies I discussed, this is something that I would share with my kids. Absolutely. This is a part of something that has impacted not just Black culture, but American culture and just culture around the world specifically. There was a video I watched of one area in Africa of the African premiere of Wakanda Forever. And it was a whole thing, drums, people dressed up. It was so beautiful to see. So that's something that is a movie transcending just being cinematography. Oh, you absolutely are a classic without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, there you have it, folks. That is 3 heart-shaped ebbs. And so the Black Panther franchise is a classic from the Wright Perspective.
I need both of you to do this while
and we're doing the Wakanda symbol. Wakanda.
Aubrey's doing it.
In his heart, he's doing it. All right.
This is no. I just want people seeing real time me buckling to my little sisters just because.
Excellent. No, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yay! Wakanda forever. And Aubrey loves us forever.
Shameless. It's so
Aubrey
shameless.
Loves us. He loves us so much.
You ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
There is no shame.
For using the sister power on me the way that you do.
There's never shame. There's never any shame in it.
I love it.
I have a calendar of when we're going to do it.
Yeah. Just like we have a content planner for the podcast.
Yeah.
We have an Aubrey manipulation planner.
It's so
all
good.
Right, well, we'll let you go.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you all for joining us on the Wright Perspective. We are so grateful for your support. We just love it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you use to access our podcast. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
I love y'all.
Bro. Love you, sis.
Love you guys.
Bye.